Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajikacharya Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajikacharya Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. And I must say, quite an assembly it is. Thank you all very much for coming. And we have some out there also. Excuse me. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this third day of June 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. 17? Okay. We are in the fourth chapter, entitled Transcendental Knowledge, and we are on text 17 on page 205. Okay. Karmano yapi bodhavyam bodhavyam chabikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam Gahana karmano gatihi Karmano yapi bodhavyam bodhavyam chabikarmanaha Akarmanashta bodhavyam Gahana karmano gatihi Karmano yapi bodhavyam bodhavyam chabikarmanaha Akarmanashta bodhavyam Gahana karmano gatihi Karmano yapi bodhavyam bodhavyam chapikarmanaha Akarmanashta bodhavyam Gahana karmano. Vaishnava Das, is that you?
That is me.
Please chant.
All right.
Karmano yapi bodhavyam bodhavyam chabikarmanaha Akarmanashta bodhavyam Gahana karmano gatihi. All right, two more. Next. Karmano yapi bodhavyam bodhavyam chabikarmanaha Akarmanashta bodhavyam. Nelson. Oh, you already went first to see. All right, one more on this side. Go ahead. Karmano yapi bodhavyam bodhavyam chapikarmanaha Karmanashta bodhavyam Gahana karmano gatihi Karmano yapi bodhavyam bodhavyam chapikarmanaha Akarmanashta bodhavyam Gahana karmano gatihi Karmano yapi bodhavyam bodhavyam chapikarmanaha Karmano yapi bodhavyam bodhavyam chapikarmanaha Akarmanashta bodhavyam Gahana karmano gati. Does another lady want to chant? You don't have to. Okay. Anyone online? Chad, you there?
Karmano yapi bodhavyam
Karmano yapi bodhavyam
bodhavyam chapi karmanaha
bodhavyam chapikarmanaha
ekarmascha bodhavyam
Akarmanashta bodhavyam
Gahana karmano gatihi.
Gahana karmano gatihi. All right, word by word. Karmanaha, of work, he certainly, api also, bodhavyam, should be understood. Bodhavyam should be understood. Cha also, vikarmanaha, of forbidden work, akarmanaha, of inaction. Cha also, bodhavyam, should be understood. Gahana, very difficult, karmanaha, of work, gatihi, entrance. Translation. Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, the intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. Now I know that's going to be hard for him, isn't it? Okay. Shh. Purport. If one is serious about liberation from material bondage, one has to understand the distinctions between action, inaction, and unauthorized actions. One has to apply oneself to such an analysis of action, reaction, and perverted actions because it is a very difficult subject matter. To understand Krishna consciousness and action according to its modes, one has to learn one's relationship with the Supreme. That is, one who has learned perfectly knows that every living entity is an eternal servitor of the Lord, and that consequently one has to act in Krishna consciousness. The entire Bhagavad Gita is directed toward this conclusion. Any other conclusions against this consciousness and its attendant actions are vikarmas, or prohibited actions. To understand all this, one has to associate with authorities in Krishna consciousness and learn the secret from them. This is as good as learning from the Lord directly. Otherwise, even the most intelligent persons will be bewildered. Om ajnana timarandasya jnanandana shalakaya chakshu unmidatam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So Krishna is talking a lot about action here. We call, yes, the last verse began with Kim Karma, Kim Karmeti. Even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action, what is inaction. So then in this verse, he's saying that it's very important to understand the distinction. There's three things here. Let's see. One should know what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. We always have to remember what is the goal of this Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita, of course, has the immediate goal of convincing Arjuna to participate in the battle. So Arjuna wanted to embrace inaction in terms of the battle. He thought that this was going to be harmful for him, for the whole family, and even for the whole world. He was saying, well, look, I'm going to fight in this battle, and if we're successful, we'll kill thousands and thousands of soldiers on the other side and on our side. And then what's going to happen to all the wives of these gentlemen? You see? They'll be unprotected, and they'll be Varnasankara, and where's the upside? You know, this is the way he was seeing it. And he had his argument, actually from the Vedas, how this is going to be very inauspicious, and he had convinced himself anyway that the right thing to do was not to fight. But Krishna wanted him to fight, which means ultimately that's the right thing to do. And what is the result of the battle? It's ultimately that righteousness is reinstalled in the government, because the Pandavas, the sons of Pandu, they were all very virtuous. They were actually all descended from demigods, and Queen Kunti. But they were cheated out of the kingdom. I won't get into the whole intricacies of Mahabharata. So Krishna, as he explains in this chapter, at the beginning, he appears in order to reinstitute dharma, to knock down the evildoers, the demons who are out to exploit others and to do harm, and to protect the devotees. Protect the devotees, get rid of the demons, and reinstitute dharma. Okay, so Arjuna is the key figure in that. He's the lead fighter on Pandava's side, which means he's leading thousands of others also who have joined them. And it is Krishna's mission that he's serving, so he's properly situated. But because of his intimate relationship with those on the other side, as well as on those side, but especially on the other side, beginning with Bhishma Dev. Now Bhishma Dev, there's a long story. He had no children by his own desire. I'm not going to tell that story, but he was the leading warrior on the opposite side. Well, how did he get on the opposite side if he's so virtuous? Because the Pandavas were cheated out of the kingdom. And the kingdom covered everything. So in order to live, basically, and survive, he needed to join forces with Duryodhana. So he's on the other side, and he's going to fight properly on the other side, you know, even though his beloved Pandavas, who he helped raise, are on the other side. Yeah, so the whole battle is very fraught. You know, it's a lot of complications. But not only was Bhishma over there, but Arjun's teacher was also his military guru, the one who taught him all. You know, there's Dhanurveda. The Vedas are like a desire tree. Nagamakalpatador, right at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, third verse of the whole book. It says, Nagamakalpatador. The Nigamas are all the Vedic writings, not just the official Vedas, but also the Upanishads and everything. So they're like a desire tree. Suppose you wanted to become a doctor, we got Ayurveda. Suppose you want to become an astrologer, oh, we got Jyotirveda. You want to become a fighter, we got Dhanurveda. So there's all kinds of knowledge, you see. The Bhagavatam, the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Purana, is the ripened fruit of this tree. In other words, the essence of the knowledge ultimately brings you to Bhakti Yoga, the perfection of pure Bhakti Yoga, in order to break free from the round of birth and death, and to be resituated. We were once there, back home, back to Godhead. To be resituated in a life of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. That's what we're aiming for. Probably this concept of going back home, back to Godhead. Now, because Srila Prabhupada gave it to us, and he was an exemplar of it. He showed, even in his old age, how courageous he was to come to America. You know, on two heart attacks, on the boat, and so many difficulties. He obviously wasn't, you know, there to like cheat everyone and make a lot of money and go back to India. You know, he didn't have it. When money came, oh, let's build a temple, let's print some books, you know, let's fly here and there all over the world and try to spread it, but not to settle down. He had an opportunity. I'll tell it. You know, as the movement progressed, it grew in many ways, and one of the most important was that he was able to attract. I forget his first name now. Ford, you know, now Ambarish, Alfred Ford. Yeah, thank you. And he was the great grandson, I think, of the original Ford, and he was an heir. He had lots of money, and he got more. So eventually, he and, believe it or not, the daughter of Walter Reuther, who was the main organizer of the car makers' unions, you know, they teamed together. She was a devotee, like a Shravanti, and she shipped in $100,000 or so, and he chipped in the rest, and they bought this mansion in Detroit that was ideal for a temple, you know. Prabhupada went there, and he's very, you know, Krishna, it's so wonderful to see all the aspects of how Prabhupada created this movement. And why Krishna picked him? Because he was an expert businessman also. And so he talked this guy down. It was $300,000, just a lot of money in 1975 or whatever it was, 76. But multiply by 10 at least in today's money. So Prabhupada talked him down to like 100,000, you know, which is like a steal. And so he got that, and he could have retired there. You know, he'd been flying all over the place. He was getting elderly and everything. But he didn't, because he would get letters. You know, he would get physical letters. This is before email. And devotees were praying, Prabhupada, please come to our center here in Nairobi. We really need you, you know. All people would go to Africa, you know. So because Prabhupada was he would call it via media, but he means the transparent medium through which Krishna's teachings are coming, it had tremendous potency. So what was the essence of it? You have to, we do certain things. You wake up in the morning, we have certain imperatives, we have to go to work, we have to pay the rent, so that, you know, we have to do that. And you have to do it in the right way, right? In other words, there's a right way to do the work, or you can slack off and you get fired, so you don't want to do that. Right? So action and inaction and proper action. So what is that action that is proper for developing the consciousness which will take us back to Godhead? That's the real question. Not just, you know, what can I do in order to make a lot of money? No, that's not the question. Because that is what is called a self-defeating endeavor that you may go. You may or may not make a lot of money, but in either way, you've given up your chance to develop that consciousness which will take you back to Godhead. In other words, one of the central facts of the philosophy we learn in the Bhagavad Gita is that the dominating thought that you have when the body finally breaks down is called death. You don't die, nobody dies. That's the great first message in the second chapter. I've made a little poem out of it. Every single body dies. Every body dies. Who can deny it? Every body dies, nobody dies. Wake up, and open your eyes. You're not that body, you're a pure spirit soul. Chant the holy name and attain life's goal. It means to realize that and go back to Godhead where there's no physical bodies, there's no death, there's no old age. Isn't that something to strive for? Yes, but we have to believe in it, and that's why we have to have someone who is living it and can impart that faith that this is real and it's true. And actually, it's so wonderful. Lord Chaitanya gave the method. Doesn't matter who you are, what your background is. If you join in the kirtan, if you're willing to hear the holy name and even chant the holy name, and especially if you want to dance, and you hang around and take prasadam, then all of that serves to help attract you to Krishna consciousness and give you faith that it's a real process. So part of it, important part, essential part of the process is getting this knowledge. Who are we? What is going on in this world? What's really worth striving for? Is there a God? If he is, then as George Harrison said, if there's a God, I want to meet him. I want to see him. I really want to see him, right? Something like that. So he played a critical role in the whole thing, But that's neither here nor there at this point. So karmano bodhavam, it's used 3 times. One should understand. These things should be understood. Why? So that we can, with knowledge, act in such a way that may not be according to our immediate desires, but we know that it's to our ultimate benefit, that this is the real thing. So we'll learn what these things are. What forbidden acts, this word vikarma. Vikarma is a prominent word. I'll share this verse again. It comes up again and again. The teachings of Rishabdev, Lord Rishabdev in the Srimad Bhagavatam. He uses this word. He says, Nunam pramattak kurute vikarma yadindriya priteya apanoti nasadu manye yata atmanoyam asannapi kleshada asadeha. Very important verse. It's the first verse in a very concise 3-verse lesson, which maybe I'll be able to cover tonight. It's really pertinent. So in this verse he says, Nuna means certainly. There's no doubt about it. Pamattak. Now the word matta is close to mad. It means mad, crazy. And pra means extremely mad, self-defeating. What is that? So let's Nunam pramattak kurate vikarma. That people are willing to perform vicious activities, self-defeating activities, harmful activity. That's vikarma. For what purpose? Yad indriya pritiya apinoti. The word indriya priti exactly translates as sense gratification. I mean, for the fleeting pleasures of the senses, the eyes, the ears, everything, So, why is that? Why is that madness? He's saying, now the word sadhu, of course, is an English word by now. It means a saint, someone who's very pious, and especially it means basically a devotee. But sadhu also has an adjectival meaning, and it means very good. In fact, I remember when I first heard devotees, in the books you read sometimes, Krishna does something wonderful and his friends say, oh, sadhu, sadhu, and everyone's thinking, oh, they're calling Krishna a sadhu. No, it simply translates exactly as bravo. Bravo, bravo, sadhu, sadhu. So if you ever hear that in ISKCON, this is what it means. So, but not sadhu means not bravo. That's pretty dumb. So here, Srimad says, Nasadu manye. My opinion is this is not very good. This is very foolish, self-defeating. Simply to act on the basis of sense gratification, performing all kinds of sinful activities, vikarma. Yata asana pi Kṛṣṇa asade, because such activity assures you 100% of getting another material body. And it may not be a human body. Vikarma can take you down to But in any case, whatever kind of body is sure of suffering. Because that's what having a body means. Yes, there is some pleasures, sometimes not. But there are these threefold miseries, which we shouldn't lose sight of. And the material world doesn't let us lose sight of them. You know, especially now with climate change, adidavic miseries are like super prominent, right? Those fires up in LA this year were like horrific. Caused by what? Huge winds, hurricane winds with no rain. Move that, you know. So that's what you're assuring yourself of suffering that in the next birth and this birth, if you perform these karmic activities. So one has to know, what is vikarma? What is these sinful activities? That's in the verse here. Bodhavnam cha vikarmanaha. And then akarmanas. Akarma is what we're looking for. Akarma has another meaning besides not doing anything. It means acting in such a way there are no karmic reactions, you see? In other words, neither good or bad. We don't want good karma. So-called good karma can take you to heaven. We don't want to go to heaven, material heaven. You just come falling back down here eventually. Okay, maybe a million years from now, but you don't go to Godhead with that. You see, good so-called good karma. What does it make a bad karma? It should take you to the other place. We won't get there. So both of those, we want to go to the eternal place, and that means the akarmana, acting but not acting, is called naishkarmya. All kinds of action, like devotees, you see, they're sweeping the patio, cleaning here, going out on Sankirtan. Kirtan, a lot of action there, right? So, but none of it is giving you any, is not putting you in the direction of coming back. Because if it'll fill your mind with so many thoughts as you're performing the action, and you maybe remember the kirtan, and you think that, but all that is very auspicious. Because even if you die, and we may die at any moment, you know, with that remembrance, you go back to Godhead. But if you're doing something wholly and solely for sense gratification, or, you know, even much worse, some vicious activity to hurt someone because they're your enemy or whatever, you know, like that. All of that is entanglement in material energy and assures you of more suffering. So we need the knowledge of how to cultivate this action but no reaction. In other words, the Kṛṣṇa karma. Kṛṣṇa karma means bhakti yoga. There's so many things we're doing. I'm doing something now, you're also doing something. You're listening, hopefully you're certainly sitting here anyway. And I'm talking, but what are we talking? We're not, you know, it's transcendental knowledge coming right from Krishna and from Prabhupada. So this can inform us, so then when it comes time to do something, we say, okay, well, let me try that chanting. That's doing something. That's the most auspicious activity, you know? Yeah, that was really nice, you know? Let me try and go back there and find out why it was so nice. You know? Or open that book that I got, you know? Sometimes these books, you know, they're like little bombs, probably, you know? Some of them are like time bombs. We have stories where somebody buys a book, or somebody's mother gets a book, you know? And she's, what is this all about? She puts it up on the bookshelf in the garage, you know. And she has a kid, you know, and grows up, and the kid grows up, he gets to be like 12, 15 years old. And there's you know, things, and the book falls off, hits him in the head. Now this is all a true story now. And he says, what is it? I didn't see that up there before, there's all this dust. So he dusts it off and reads the book. This is interesting. This is really interesting stuff, you know. And I see there's an address book in the back. Whoa, they have a temple just, you know, in my city. And so someone becomes a devotee like that. Because the books are out there, you know. So Prabhupada wanted as many, you know, distributors as possible. Of course, now there's the internet. So you can, you know, I know, I was told that in LA they don't like devotees to talk about this site because they're trying to sell so many books, and you can actually find all the books online. You know, Database.io, have you been on there? The only problem is that they never update the books. And there's various corrections that needed to be made. And this editor they have, he figured out something. And they haven't, you know, finished. But they're still overwhelmingly, you know, it's so beneficial that you can find books online if you, you know, you can't afford to buy the books. All right, let's go on. So this is he's saying that one has to understand what is action, what is inaction, and what is vicious action of vikarma. And I think he will explain that as he goes on. Okay. Now this is an interesting verse. Next one. Karma nikarma pasyed. Akarmani cha karma yaha. Sabuddhiman manusheshu. Sayukta Kṛṣṇa karma krit. One who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, human beings. And he is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. Purport: a person acting in Krishna consciousness is naturally free from the bonds of karma. His activities are all performed for Krishna. Therefore, he does not enjoy or suffer any of the effects of work. Consequently, he is intelligent in human society, even though he is engaged in all sorts of activities for Krishna. Akarma means without reactions to work. The impersonalist ceases fruitive activities out of fear, so that the resultant action may not be a stumbling block on the path of self-realization. But the personalist knows rightly his position as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he engages himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness. Because everything is done for Krishna, he enjoys only transcendental happiness in the discharge of this service. Those who are engaged in this process are known to be without desire for personal sense gratification. The sense of eternal servitorship to Krishna makes one immune to all sorts of reactionary elements of work. So this is really one definition of akarma. It doesn't mean doing nothing. You know, that's not what we're into. We're into doing things in connection with Krishna. One, you know, there's like, I don't know, 1,000 janitors in this city probably. And they do nice sweeping. They're very, you know, professional at it. They know what they're doing, you know. But none of it is devotional service because it's not done, everything is motivation. They're doing it because they wanted the salary and so forth, you know. So that's nothing, that's there. But it's karmic, you know, and that is not going to get them liberation, they'll come back. But a devotee may be sweeping the patio or even, you know, whatever. And it's devotional service. It's not entangling them further in the actions and reactions of the material energy. But it's getting them out. Because they're doing all that work, and what's the consciousness they're doing? Oh, I'm doing this for Krishna. You know, and next time they come, I'll tell you a story. This is an amazing story. I spent 6 years in Miami Temple working on Srimad Bhagavatam. This was like the greatest boon I received. Prabhupada wasn't able to finish the Bhagavatam. You know, he got through 13 chapters of the 10th canto, leaving about 1/3 of the book to be finished. The rest of the 10th canto, 11th canto, 12th canto, like that. So I had the great opportunity of joining the team, which is my old dear friend, Gopi Puranadana Prabhu, who was a masterful Sanskrit scholar, and Ridhyananda Das Goswami, who had learned Sanskrit in Harvard. He was also expert, and he was the main translator. So we three, you know, we collaborated, and of course there was a whole support crew. And, okay, what was I?
Working on the Srimad Bhagavatam, Miami, helps me jogging memory.
I'm getting dementia, I think. Anyway, so it was quite an adventure, and what happened was that I wasn't originally part of the team, but what happened is that one of the main editors, his health was bad. He couldn't stay there. He had to go take care of his health, and another editor, he had other engagements and he couldn't stay there. So I got the call to do it. And one time, this was an interesting event. One of the devotees there involved, his name was Dineshwar, and he was like the manager, you know, the financial manager and everything like that. So the book, it was hard getting the book out, you know, to get everything together. And so he said, we're not going fast enough here. So we have to somehow get the mercy of Krishna, do something. So he said, we should go up into the temple, which is near the top of the whole building. This was like an 8-story building that had been a hotel on Miami Beach. I had a room on the 4th floor. I could see the ocean. It was about 100 feet from me. I was watching the cruise ships go up, and then come back this way. And I must have died from drowning in my last life, because it was ironic. I grew up practically on the ocean, and I lived in Long Island. My father, every Sunday in the summer, would take us to Jones Beach, about a 10-minute drive, Well, I was a little skinny kid, I didn't want to go into the ocean. I would play, I would make little sand castles, I would wade in and come out, When we had a pool, I would go in and swim a little bit, but I never learned to swim there. But, so then when I was joined in Brooklyn, I'm basically on the ocean. After that, I moved to LA at Venice Beach, I'm still on the ocean. But I live here 3-4 blocks from the ocean, right? I might as well be in Kansas. I don't go to the ocean. I see people drive, with their heavy boards, and driving a bicycle going down to the ocean. By the way, there's a warning now. There's a big storm blowing up. I don't know if you know that. Yeah, don't go in the water. But anyway, so so we spent 6 years finishing that book, the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah, and it was such an absorbing thing, mostly the 10th canto, thing like that. So anyway, oh yes, so Daneshwar said we have to do a puja. So we took a set of the books that we had, which the 11th canto was done before the 10th canto, and we made a little altar in the middle of the temple. The curtains were closed, and we did puja for the Bhagavatam, and then we circumambulated, and this was by way of getting the mercy of the Bhagavatam, so we could produce the Bhagavatam. And I'll be darned if things didn't clear up after that. A wonderful indexer came. We had to index all these books, and he had trained, and so he came there and lived there. So things moved on, and we were able to, in 6 years, we completed the whole project. Then I came here, and then had other big projects, which I won't get into right now. But the point is that I was always, steeped in these books. And this karma nikarma yak pashed, the karma nikarma. So what has to be understood, as Prabhupada says here, that what is action, what is inaction, and what is this nice karma? Nice karma is activity that doesn't produce any karmic reaction, and that's Krishna consciousness. There's no karmic reaction. The reaction is your heart becomes purified, and you develop your affection for Krishna, which is the ultimate goal. So that's what we're trying to do. It's centered on the chanting and the hearing, and also purifying our intelligence. Notice the word bodhavyam comes in here, buddhiman. The intelligence is going to guide the mind and the senses of what to do. The intelligence, when it's strong in Krishna consciousness, it can have the strength to do that. And here's where I'll share a verse. This one I won't forget. This is a verse many of you have heard before. I'm glad you didn't turn the heat on. Hey, boy. Yeah, I think we're finally coming to summer, right? We're in June. It's about time. So anyway, this was taught by Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami. And it exactly pertains to this. So he says, Kama dinang katina katita palita durnideshas. Tesham jata mayana karuna nattapano prashantihi. Utrijaitan hadayatupate sampratam labna buddhis. In how many ways have I sought to obey the seductive demands of my wicked desires? They've shown me no mercy, yet on I have gone shamelessly trying to quench lust's unquenchable fires. But now I'm rejecting these hellish desires, for my higher intelligence now has awoken. O Krishna, O shelter of fearlessness, please let me serve you with faith that will never be broken. And that's really very important, because we all have to come to that point where the intelligence becomes strengthened to say, no, you stupid mind, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to the temple. Or I'm studying, or I'm doing. It's time to do. Because there are austerities it's necessary. Another verse by Rishabh Dev. because you heard it already last class, but this is, the Taco Tuesday group. So Rishabhdev is a very important teacher. When the 5th canto came out, and that was part of the marathon, the marathon of the 17 books in 2 months, So the 5th canto, the 5th chapter, Rishabhdev, who's an incarnation of Krishna, he had 100 sons, and he's going to take sannyas and install Bharat as the king. That's why he became Bharatavarsha, the famous king. But before that, he's going to, without mincing any words, he's telling it as it is. So the very first verse of his instructions, 5th canto, 5th chapter, text 1. If you have a set, you can do it, or you can get online and find it. Prabhupada gave 10, 15 classes on that. He was in India traveling. Wherever he went, he spoke on this verse. Nayam deho deha bhajang niloke Kṛṣṇa kāmānādate vidbhujanghe tapo divyam puttaka yena sattvam shuddhyed yasmad brahma saukyam tvanantam. So here's the choice we have. Are we going to go for the fleeting, frustrating pleasures of the senses, which ultimately bring us all misery? I'm not going to share that verse this time. There's one that comes up every time. Or are we going to have faith that if we practice Krishna consciousness, we can come to the point of always being immersed in ananda, bliss, not flickering like sense gratification? That's the choice. So he says, without mincing words here, this is like straight sauce. He says, "Oh, my sons, those who have taken birth in the human form, human body, deha bhajan nri loke." Nri is short for nara, which means human being. Kṛṣṇa kāmān, they should not work very hard, day and night, just for the standard of sense pleasure that the hogs are enjoying, which eat abominable foodstuffs. I'm not going to mention what it is, but we don't want to go there. So what's the alternative? Topo divyam. Those 4 syllables are really revolutionary. One has to embrace the idea, and with strength and intelligence, engage the mind, the senses, and everything, in austerities. But not any austerities. Hiranyakashipu did austerities. He's a demon, to become a powerful demon. No. People were going to Mangalartik at 4:15, and some people are on the highway going to work, drive 100 miles, or whatever it is. So that's not the austerities we're talking about. This is divine, divyam also, by which your existence becomes purified. You see, you purify your existence, mind, intelligence, senses, everything. What's the use of that? Here comes the punchline. Yasmat brahma saukyam tvanantam. Now, saukyam is a variety of the word sukha, which means happiness. But it's not ordinary, it's brahma saukyam, it's spiritual happiness, ever-increasing bliss, satchidananda. And that's why he says anantam, without end. Now, anantam also means without limit. It's ever expanding and not unending. So that's your choice, O sons. You can engage in ordinary activity of sense gratification, and which leads to suffering and another birth, or you can undergo the austerity of Krishna consciousness. Not everything is an austerity, some is just sheer joy, but those austerities have to be there to set the table for the pure joy activities. And you become purified. This is Lord Chaitanya's mission and his message. Cheto dharpana marjanam. Here's the verse that the whole movement is based on. I'll give it to you since we have such a nice group. You know this one. Those who know it can chant along. Cheto dharpana marjanam bhava mahadhavagni nirvapanam shreya kaidava chandrikava tadanam vidyavadhu jivanam anandam pradivardhanam pradibadam purnamita swadanam sarvatma snapadam padam vijayate Shri Krishna sankirtanam. Which means, all glories to the chanting of Shri Krishna's holy names, which easily extinguishes samsara's blazing flames by polishing the lust-encrusted mirror of the heart. That chanting is the waxing moon that knows the secret art of causing the white lotus of good fortune to unfurl its petals far and wide throughout this bleak and blighted world. Of transcendental knowledge which will take us to life's goal, the chanting of the name of Krishna is the life and soul. The ocean of ecstatic bliss floods far beyond its bounds, wherever Krishna's merciful and mystic name resounds. Indeed, whenever Krishna's names are sung in congregation, at every step one tastes a joy that knows no limitation. So here, with great intention, as I earnestly request, please chant Shri Krishna's holy names and be supremely blessed. The soothing nectar of the name will bathe your consciousness, bestow pure love for Krishna, and eradicate distress. And Lord Chaitanya's movement is based on this verse, you know. And here's a treat for you. Maybe, probably. So if you go on YouTube and you search for Dravida space Mayapur, Mayapur. That's the sacred city where Lord Chaitanya was born in Mayapur. You'll see there's 20 years now ago, 2005, I was in Mayapur, and I had written this already. And one boy asked me to come up. We had gone on some outings together in Vrindavan, and he heard me chant this. You have to do the Shikshastika. I said, oh, boo, you know, I haven't rehearsed. I'm going to make my voice, you know. You have to do it. All right. So I get up. There was a stage. I mean, some of these people, you know, have you ever heard of Vyasaki? Who's heard of him? Come on, he's very famous, you know. Anyway, he was sitting there. He was my side man on the harmonium. Behind me was Indra. You may have heard of him. He was a little doubtful at first, but when he heard me doing the English, he perks up. He goes, oh, what's all this? You know. Then there was Satyanandan Swami. He was next to him. Behind him was Radhanath Swami. And our very own Vrindavan Das, I don't know if you've Vrindavan Das, who's become a wonderful kirtaniya. And he was about 18, you know, this is 20 years ago. So now he's maybe 30. So he was like 15. I mean, anyway, he was in his teens. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of devotees. And somehow I blew a few lines, so don't laugh, you know. But it's gone viral for me, you know, 25,000 hits. It's only been 20 years. Anyway, check it out. If you just remember, Dravida Mayapur. And you'll see, you know. So that verse is in there, the one I just chanted. So Lord Chaitanya, he came to teach that. He's Krishna himself. He had already spoken the Bhagavad Gita. But this is now Kali Yuga. Nobody knows the Bhagavad Gita. If they do, they misinterpret it. You know, that happened. Prabhupada said. So how to break through all of that? So he came. He said, no prerequisites. Doesn't matter what gender you are. Doesn't matter how old you are, where you were born, what your color is. Forget it. You know, just come and chant these 16 names. You can memorize it in about a minute, and you know, join us in the kirtan. And when you get a little tired, take prasadam. You see. And then, you know, if you're interested in more, then you sit, you know, listen to a class given by, you know, Acharya. And in this way, you know, he spread Krishna consciousness all over India. But he predicted it would be spread all over the world. And that prediction was part of Prabhupada's impetus to come to the West. You know, he had his spiritual master's order, he had Lord Chaitanya's prediction, and there was no doubt he was going to, even though he was elderly, he undertook it amazingly. All for us. So that's a little sermon there. All right, let's do one more verse. We did 18, right? Yes. All right. Yasya sarve samarambha kama sankalpa varjitaha jnanagni dagda karmanam tamahu panditam buddha. One is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. He is said by sages to be a worker for whom the reactions of work have been burned up by the fire of perfect knowledge. Purport. Only a person in full knowledge can understand the activities of a person in Krishna consciousness. Because the person in Krishna consciousness is devoid of all kinds of sense gratificatory propensities, it is to be understood that he has burned up the reactions of his work by perfect knowledge of his constitutional position as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is actually learned who has attained to such perfection of knowledge. Development of this knowledge of eternal servitorship to the Lord is compared to fire. Such a fire, once kindled, can burn up all kinds of reactions to work. So this should also be part of our understanding, that we're carrying like a whole history of reactions. Some of them sinful reactions, some may be good reactions that take us to a better place. But the point is, good or so-called bad or so-called good, they're going to bring us back to a human, to another birth. Hopefully human, maybe not even human. So we want to do something that will eradicate those reactions, and that's Krishna consciousness. The power of the holy name is so great. Chanting just once without offense, and you're free of sinful reactions. This is a verse with a poem attached. Spoken by Haridas Thakur, who is Namacharya. Lord Chaitanya designated him. He's the exemplar for chanting the holy name. He would chant 100,000 names a day. It took about 16 hours, 192 rounds. We have trouble with our 16. He's chanting 192 rounds. So I won't give the whole context, it's getting late. But he's in a discussion with Raghunadas Goswami was there. As a young boy, he wasn't yet as Goswami. And his parents, they were all Vaishnavas. And Haridas Thakur is glorifying the holy name. And he says, oh, the holy name is so powerful. If you chant it once, one name purely, you'll eradicate all your sins, you'll be liberated. And there was a Smarta Brahman. Smart to me, they're not so smart because they're too involved in the Smriti regulations. So he didn't believe it. And he said, if that's not true, that can't be true. If it's not, I'll cut off your nose. So this was a great offense against Haridas Thakur. And they kicked him out, they fired him because he was an employee there. But they asked Haridas to explain it, and he chanted this verse and then explained it. And I gave, for the translation of the verse and the explanation, I made a little poem. Anghak sang hadata, it's a far out verse, listen to the meter. Anghak sang hadata kinang sakadadiyade pasakalokasya tadaniti batamalajalading jayajidda mangalang hare nama. Now, you have to take yourself back 500 years. There's no electricity. So when the sun goes down, it gets very dark, right? When the moon is invisible, withered to nil, and the sun is long gone from the sky, then an ocean of darkness envelops this world, and the timorous fear they might die. But that thick pall of gloom is at once swept away when the first signs of sunrise appear. And the dawning of day gives assurance to all that in truth there is nothing to fear. In a similar way, when illusion holds sway and the soul has forgotten his Lord, then the darkness of ignorance covers his heart. Sin and suffering are his reward. But as soon as he says Krishna's name even once, in a manner that doesn't offend, then his ignorance flees like the darkness at dawn, and his sin and his suffering end. So there's nothing to fear, for the sun of the name has appeared with his powers divine. In your heart may that sun, benedictive for all, become fixed and eternally shine. So this is, of all my little poems, but this is Bhadravendra Swami's favorite. It means a lot for us if we can take it seriously. The holy name is our salvation. It's so simple and easy, but still, if you have to be able to develop appreciation for the name to the point of being able to chant purely, which means without any distraction or with full attention. And in a prayerful way. Prabhupada said, what is it name? It is simply a call upon Radha and Krishna to please have mercy and engage me in your service. That's the whole meaning of it, But especially hear the word, hear the sound. The sound, hear it and pay full attention, and then you get the full blessings of the holy name. So that's the best activity. There's activity. You're chanting this way, or you're dancing this way, whatever, playing the kartals. And your voice, believe me, that's active. And but that activity will take you right out of this material world back to the spiritual world, which is where we want to be. Any questions or comments? We have 1 minute. Okay, I think we had our quota of poetry. So let us adjourn, have a nice kirtan, and take rest dreaming of the holy name and beautiful Radha Giridhari. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.